It's time to take two with Therese, and I'm here for Altenew, and I have two cards sharing two different ways to use stencils. So I'm starting off with the Watercolor Bouquet stencil, and I'm working on some Bristol Smooth cardstock, and I decided today I would try painting through the stencil. So I've got my water brush and my Altenew palette. This is the 36 pan palette, and these colours match perfectly with the Altenew inks. And what I'm doing here is, anyone can do this, I'm telling you now. This is so simple because all I'm doing is activating the pan with a bit of water. So I'm adding some water to the actual watercolor paint just to activate it, picking it up with my brush and painting it through the stencil. I'm trying to be careful not to touch the colors too much because they will probably meld into mud. And my biggest hint here is to wait for it to dry. I am actually mixing a couple of colors here because I thought that green, the bamboo, was just that little bit too bright. So I came in with the frayed leaf and just muted it down just a little bit. And then I did set this aside to dry before I actually did my second layer. And you'll notice on this stencil here, it actually has a couple of different layers on the stencil. It's actually a layering stencil, and it's quite unique in that way. And once it was all dry, I've actually laid it back over top where it needs to be, over the image, over the leaves and the flowers. And then I'm doing exactly the same thing again. But this time I'm actually picking up darker colors. So I'm going for a darker pink and a darker green and layering them through the holes in the stencil. So like I said, anyone can do this. It's a really simple technique. Just wait for it to dry in between. It's my biggest hint. So these are, both the cards are fairly clean and simple today. And they're actually inspired by one of the Lindas. I have quite a few Lindas that follow me, and Linda R actually requested a take two video using more techniques with stencils. So thank you, Linda, for this great idea. So while that's drying, so that's my first panel off to the side drying, I thought I'd start on my second panel. And this time I'm actually going to be using two different stencils but combining them together to get a totally unique look. So I've got the Wavy grid stencil. I'm working on some 80-pound Nina Solar white cardstock, and I've taped the Wavy stencil down, and then I've actually taped my second stencil over top, which is the Floral Drape stencil. And this is, I'm going to cut this down and make it my card front. And I figured it was just easier to work on a bigger piece than I need, because then it gives me a bit of leeway as to where I want my image to sit on my card front. I started with some of the purples and a grey, and I wasn't liking the way the grey looked. So what I did in the end was come back in with a darker purple, it's the hydrangea, and added more colour, and I was much happier with the result here. And then these brushes make it really easy to blend intricate designs, and they don't tend to bend the actual stencils. You know, some of the stencils are really fine. These brushes seem to work really well with those small intricate stencil designs. How cool is this? You could do this with so many different styles of stencil. It's such a fun technique. I decided to come in on both my cards, so I'm going to be using some of the ink sprays, and I've got the iridescent one and also the soft lilac colour here, and I'm just tapping out some splatters of ink. I actually take the nozzle out of the bottle to splat my ink. So after that dried, what I've done now is actually set it in my Misty, and I did have to use a creative corner here just to make, because it's such a large stamp. This is one of the mega greetings, and it's the word hello, and I'm seriously just stamping it straight over top of all that stenciling. It took me ages to decide what to do with the sentiment, and I thought this is a really unique way to use these particular sentiments, and they're such a bold statement on the card. I actually came in then with the word sunshine. I thought it would be fun to say hello sunshine, and that's from one of the newest sets, the exotic tulips. And I did actually press a bit hard on that and the exclamation mark. Anyway, I'll come to that in a minute. I stuffed it up. It looks like it says sunshinal, but I'll fix it up very shortly. I have obviously adhered the panel to the front of my card, and I'm adding some sparkling clear sequins over the design, and this is how I fix up my sunshinal. Seriously, all I'm doing is putting a dot of white gel pen over the exclamation mark, just so that the dot on the exclamation mark stands out a bit better. So hopefully you can see that in the photos. So my second panel now is all dry, and I'm using the same Mega Greetings stamp set, and this time I've used the word thanks. I'm going to be making a landscape card, and I've stamped that with the black ink as well, but this time I'm actually covering my sentiment. I'm a bit smarter on this one. I'm covering my sentiment before I add my splats, because the splats actually made it harder for me to get the ink down on the first one. So this time I didn't have to worry about that. And this time I used the frosty pink with the iridescent ink sprays. Now the rest of my sentiment I've taken from the Many Thanks stamp set, and I am using some Bristol Smooth here because I want my white cardstocks to match, because they do look different against each other. I've got a landscape card, and I'm just covering the front of my card with some black cardstock, and then I want to pop up the panel that I've created. So because my ink sprays haven't dried yet, I've actually just adhered the fun foam to the front of my card with some score tape, and then I can actually just attach my panel to the front and carefully press down on it so I don't smudge those ink sprays. I did pop up my sentiment as well, and to keep in line with the other card, I've also added some sequins on both of the designs. So like this video if you like it, and if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. There's always heaps of inspiration here, and I hope you have the most amazing day. Bye.